Hi there. I'm gonna wait a couple minutes until other people can get on here because I did mention in one of my videos recently that I would go on here and talk about some stuff in my art, and maybe try to come to some different conclusions than what I have been coming to lately. So I am burning some sage along with some flat pine that I have gotten and harvested out of my own yard, and I am using this as a way to purify. And I do this with all of my art. Everything gets purified the entire time. So I wanted you guys to see something because we are right now at 9 o'clock and it is the twilight zone. That's what I like to call it, twilight. Anyway, and I don't mean the movie Twilight. What I'm talking about here is the fact that we are on the cusp of it getting dark. And I have set up one of my paintings behind us, and I have a black light underneath it. And so once we get to where it's getting that dark, you'll be able to really see it start glowing. And then maybe you'll be able to understand a little bit about why I do these things. I'll tell you, honestly, I've been really beating myself up a lot lately after this convention that I did. It's like, you feel like it's a total failure. But yet, as one of my best friends says to me, did you make any connections? Did you at least have fun? And I remembered that that's really what it's kind of all about when we do these. So yeah, sure, I lost an incredible amount of money, and I struggled. However, I met some really amazing people, and those people will be a part of my life. I can absolutely guarantee you that they will be. They're not that far away either, and so you start to meet new people, like fellow companions and stuff like that. And so that part is something that was really valuable. And so that's something that sometimes you just can't buy. And so in a sense, being there was the means for it to be able to happen, so that I, could meet some of these people and meet a couple new publishers, people like that. Industry connections is, I guess, the best way to put it. But before I had that recognition, before I got that text from my friend, I was thinking, I just have to lift myself up. Do I want to continue being an artist? What is an artist's destiny? It's the ups and the downs. It's the whole process. And lately I've been experiencing an enormous amount of the downs, right? And so these downs are like, I don't know how to put it other than they're deterrents. So it dawned on me, this one piece of art, that this was the very first piece of art that I started at the beginning of the year. And I did this so that it would be completed on the Chinese New Year. And I had my art showing on that week. And so I wanted to have something special. And so I started working on this literally New Year's Eve and started sculpting it. And it's called the Firehorse of the Ether. And it is completely like molded and three-dimensional. But you'll be able to see it more when the light starts coming out. And regular light, it's this beautiful orange with black background and little sparkles. And in fact, there's also a bunch of those, I can never say the word, Swarovski crystals. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I had a bunch of those that I put all throughout here. So like the space scene, when it is under black light, it starts to glow. There's a couple of rocks in there that are actually fluorescent based, or not fluorescent based, but they respond to it, and they are a permanent part of this piece of work. And so what I wanted to do is, I was looking at my journal, and sometimes I do that when things just don't seem to be lining up the way that I had hoped or would like to. And I noticed that in my journal, I had said that this year is starting out scary. It seems to be more intense than usual. There's more heartbreak, unforgettable loss. And so, I noticed all that. But then I read the piece immediately following that. And that is the description. And so I wanted to share this with you guys because I think that it has something to say. And so here we go. Because I am also a writer. I like writing and I do poetry as well. Some of the poetry I've been doing lately, though, is a little bit dark, so I'm going to hold off on sharing that right now. So here we go. This is Firehorse of the Ether. I'm pulling this firehorse out of the clay, out of the heat, the pressure, and the ether that holds the spark we thought we'd lost. This being creates movement. It's the force that breaks stagnation, the fire that clears what no longer belongs, the courage we forgot we carry. When I was young and I ran towards everything without fear, and then life pressed me, quiet for a long time, but the firehorse doesn't let us stay silent forever. Every scrape of this clay, of the mold, is a reminder that we are allowed to return to ourselves. We're allowed to rise through raw, honest, unpolished fire, the way fire rises when it finally gets air. The firehorse teaches us to run again, to trust our instincts. And now here's the part that really gets interesting because it contradicts everything I've been telling myself in other videos about continuing my art. And so here it goes. To take up space without apology, to move even when the path isn't clear. The ether holds all of us and the firehorse moves through it to remind us that transformation is still possible and that courage can return. And that's the courage is what I need right now. The motion can begin again. Throughout the year, may this beautiful creature help us remember our own fire. May it help us move forward in the shape that's truest to ourselves. And so that was what I wrote about the firehorse. I take notes as I'm making these so that different parts of the experience are integrated, but I always write something. On my Facebook page, or not my Facebook, on my website, I actually have I think some of that stuff in there, and it's already written out. So what that means to me is, it's about that taking up space. I always feel like sometimes as an artist, especially when you just keep producing it and you're starting to get more rapid and you're having more need, and you're doing a lot of more experimentations and having a lot more failures, but also a lot more not failures. I still don't quite know how I ever did this piece, to tell you the truth. It still kind of baffles me that I was able to do it. It almost feels like I didn't do it, if that makes sense. I don't know. But anyway, so the firehorse reminds us of something. It's okay for us to produce things that could be waste. Heck, this sculpture is completely burnable. It's on wood. You could burn it. So, it's got a second source to it, right? That is the part of the whole process. And so you have to look at your art and try to find ways to be able to do stuff so that you can have less of an imprint on this planet. And we try doing that. We mix clays with paper and old house paint, and we create our own air dry clay, and then we paint everything. And then, like up in here, I created all of this part with, the insides of like the Amazon packages. You tear them open, there's these honeycombs. If you pull those honeycombs out, it's really cool. And so they made these fire pieces here, and I'll show you it closer when it gets darker. And I thought it was kind of fun, reusing some of these things. A lot of stuff that went into this were being reused, even taken off of jewelry that nobody wants to wear, but independently you can integrate it into art. That's become something that I really love doing, is collecting, like, just when I find beads that nobody wants, necklaces that nobody wants, those ones are the ones that are ready for another life. And so I get those when I've got a lot of cases in there. And a lot of it is so that I can have whatever I envision while I'm working. I can have the means to be able to produce it. And that's a major limitation that artists don't always talk about. Excuse me. It is incredibly humid out here. But again, I like to be outside in the fresh air with the fireflies and the crickets and the air conditioning. I just realized that's going. That could probably be turned off. I could do that. Do you think I should do that? Don't know? Okay. Well, I gotta wonder here. Okay, I am still learning how to use this thing. So trust me when I say that there's gonna be a lot of little things that I could be doing and I'm not doing. I'm just on here to share my passion for art and my passion for embracing my fear. After doing this convention and not selling, I sold one print, and it was the only print I'd ever made of Shattered Held from Above. It's about this big, and it's on aluminum. And, it was beautiful, beautiful, 18 by 24. And I sold that to a young collector. And I gave her a very substantial discount where basically I sold it to her at cost. She really sparked me in that way. And she was just so grateful. And this was her very first piece of art from a professional artist. And I think that was kind of worth it too, to have that moment. And I wrapped it in paper and everything for her. That was so much fun getting to do that. Which makes me want to do it more. I think I'm going to probably start creating more prints. I think that's the better route to go because it makes things more affordable. It might even reduce like some of the shipping costs on shipping to people, stuff like that. And I could do some limited. I only have one print that I did as a Gixley, and it was the painting I Am, which is about that release. I had not painted abstract in over 20 years. And when it all came out, it was like this just big explosion. And I don't even remember what I was doing that day, other than the fact that I went into my studio and I was listening to music, and I had been trying to paint. I mean, seriously, for like the entire year, I kept trying. It was my New Year's resolution 2 years in a row, and I couldn't do it. And so but I kept trying. And so when that moment came, I ended up painting for 8 hours straight. Yeah, I think I listened to Depeche Mode on repeat. Pretty sure my husband would attest to that. But it didn't matter. It was all of this stuff coming out. And what's funny is it actually looks like coral. And it's got a lot of very bright colors, like oranges, yellows, and blues. And it's very vibrant. A friend of mine, he's an artist, Lenny, he has told me that's kind of something you want to look for, is having that ability for it to do that. And I probably just completely went blank because my dog just scratched at the door. All right, hello. I'm going to repeat. I have ADHD. It does affect me in some ways, shape and stuff because of the fact that I am older, recognizing it. It's funny because I just thought that in school, when I did my college, that my methods were the only way that I could remember things and memorize things, and that I had to do things a certain way, not necessarily the same as other people. But I didn't consider myself to be different. And I don't know if that makes any sense. I didn't consider myself to be, I didn't use the resources at the time. And I wish I had used them more. Looking back, it probably would have helped out a lot on some of the things. But I ended up doing competitions. I literally took my team that hated me, the 7-against-1, to the finals, and we placed second in the nation on the leading edge design competition. And that is all about sustainable based architecture. And you literally have, it's 11 weeks from beginning to end to complete these design boards, these buildings, the full thing. And they have to be like plans, like you would be able to build them, but they have to have sustainable points to them, and used like different types of sustainability in the building features. You have to use as well, like using more adobe so that you can get the natural cooling that happens for, after it's been cold. It like literally just radiates it into the house, and it can help in the summertime. The competition was always for the Southern California climate. So those were the kind of bases that we had to do on. But anyway, I digressed, yeah, that's shocking, isn't it? I do technically digress quite a few times, but I think that's because my mind just kind of gets where it gets excited and it wants to do different things, and it just thinks about a million different things. Like right now, even as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, my mind is silently rebuilding my shed into a new art space. Made out of a shed, probably like, kind of like a clubhouse. And I'm totally going to build it myself. I built my office, so I did that myself. I know I can do it. But I think that it's something to just tell you why I get that way, so that you can, as people say, follow the ball when I am talking. It's all related. It all comes full circle. Sometimes it takes me longer to get to a point than other times. My husband is just as guilty as that. Seriously. We always call him a driver because it's like holding the CB radio on. Those guys back in the day had their CB radios on, and they would hold the button down so that they could just talk and get blah, 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 and they would just go on and on, 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 on until they were done. Then they let off the button. And that is just, it's an old driver thing. And so my husband does that. And but it's kind of funny. And I'm seeing that the light is starting to come out even better here, so I'm going to turn it a little bit more so you can see how the light is coming into play with the Firehorse as the light changes. And all of this, the one thing when I did it is I try to do the unexpected, and that is that I seal my art incredibly well, and I make it so that it can be touched. If somebody goes up and they see something in 3D, especially something that looks liquid, they're going to want to feel that and see what does that feel like type thing. And I don't deter that. I'm not going to just hang it up and let a bunch of kindergartners all go rah crazy at it. But it can be revealed as something you can touch. And so then it becomes like a sensorial thing, something that you can use in that way. But the thing is that I also wanted to tell you about everything that I make. I put some form of history in. And this one in particular is really unique and special to me. My father was a lighting designer and stage technician, and he worked backstage doing lighting my whole life. And he slowly worked up to become a pyro. In fact, he did the pyro for the Avengers, Spider-Man, and a bunch of other films too that he got to do them for towards the end before he started changing. And he did change at some point, and boy, did he change. But inside here, he used to have a collection. That's the neighbors, sorry. They've got lots of sports cars, and they're very noisy, and he's going to go around us in a minute. It's all good fun. But this piece right in here, and it's right here, there is a plate, and I'm going to show it to you closer. Yeah, I can do that. Let me move this a little bit just so you can see it. And so with this plate, my dad used to collect things like this. When he worked in the theaters, and some of them were like the Ohio Theater, the Southern Theater, Radio City Music Hall, places like that, he had these gels, or these, not gels, these are the, oh my gosh, the tins. This one in particular, he had a set of these tins, and they're so ornate and unique, and they were made in London, and it's different light filters. And so I put the black light behind that so that it will come out with that filter on it. And it says right on there, 1901, made in England. But so that is from my collection of things that I have for my family. And I do try to integrate that in, especially if it's relevant. I think it was very relevant with this piece in particular, because I really paid attention to how it was going to develop as the light changed, as it became more black light and less, natural light. As you can see it slowly changing, and it'll light up completely, kind of, in a cool way, a different way. But I realized that I think being around lighting is one of the reasons I love, like, the vibrancies, those vibrant colors. That's what I'm thinking it has a lot to do with. And, and he, towards the end, he did some jobs where he worked with glow art stuff and glow paint, and these shows that they did, things with trauma, I think it was. I don't know. It was odd stuff, but you never knew what he was going to be doing. But oddly enough, this piece in particular, it does have that edge to it. But there's also something else in there. I have always loved horses. And when I mean I love horses, I love horses. I have always wanted one. And now we've got a helicopter going overhead. It's really going over. We'll just give it a second here. There is an airstrip right up the road from us, which was really cool to have, but it's got its disadvantages. Sometimes it's really cool to see some of these things that come across here. But anyway, as I was saying, with this, I decided to try doing a horse. I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly until the Firehorse started coming to me. The Firehorse started kind of becoming something as I was wanting to create a horse anyway. My mom had said, why don't you try creating a horse? And I realized that in the past, I had become so much of a perfectionist with myself that I could not do stuff like that because it would never look right to me. It wouldn't look like the thing. Eventually, I got to where I could really draw things so that they looked realistic, and I was really good with shadowing, and I did a lot of realism drawing that way. And there's a story why I don't do that anymore, but I am capable of that. I have several drawings that I've done. I can share at some point, maybe. We'll see. But anyway, this was that horse, and it was my version of it. But it was my way of still doing it and still being able to do it. And so I felt so grateful to this Firehorse as it started to progress and become something that almost, like living, breathing type stuff. I'm going to see if I can remove some of my background noise really quick here. We'll try that, see if that helps. Okay. I don't know. I'm hoping that helps. All right. So sometimes you realize that different gratitude in different ways. You'll notice that when I start these, I smudge and I sage everything because I want the air around me to be to be purified as much as possible. It's also a way that, I don't know, it kind of puts you in check. It's like you got to speak the truth when you are involved with that kind of medicine. And so anyway, back to where I was with this. It kind of became like a mother-father piece. It's kind of weird. Isn't that? I don't know. But it is the Firehorse that came out completely. And I'm going to see now that it's getting, okay, I think the light's starting to come out really good for it. You can see it. So right in there, you can see how the colors are going to start to change. But right up in here where the horse's head is, this I molded separately along with all the parts that come down and out of this. And the reason is it's actually completely a vessel. And inside it, it has different herbs and different plants that are considered traditionally for gratitude. And so I'm putting it in the horse. And that is, the gratitude that I felt for that piece as I was doing it. And so I think now you can kind of understand why. Hang on here. All right, I got to plug this in. It's going to go crazy for 1 second. So sorry. Here we go. I need to get one of those little tripod thingies, and I've been looking at them. I'm going to wait and try to get just the right one. Nothing over the top, but, something I'm going to purchase through the TikTok store. They've got a really good selection of stuff in that store. I don't know if you've ever gone in there, but some of the stuff that they have for bloggers is really kind of cool. And it's something that you don't really expect. It's kind of like a full service type deal. You can go in there and get your supplies and everything. I'm waiting for them to start selling paint and wooden panels. Once they start doing that, then I can purchase that through them too. And TikTok universe will surpass, even what it has become as people in my age bracket learn the simplicity of this particular app. And there's a certain freedom with it you do not get with some of the competitors. In fact, I'll tell you what, Facebook took down my best friend's page. It was his artist page. He had developed 16,000 followers and fans. And they took it down because he made a post about selling his art. And apparently because there's the commerce rules and everything, they banned that site permanently, they said, which was like, oh my God. But I think TikTok's a lot more lenient. The things that they do care about, I think, are relevant. You really don't want people to come on here and watching people just getting drunk or smoking and getting whatever. Although it sounds like kind of like a little party, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I have a very odd sense of humor. It means that everything, it really only relates to me inside, where only I get it. It's only funny to me. So now you can see the light on this, and now I completely unplugged it and bring it in here. And you can see it even more now that the light has changed. And so I found that with this piece, I'm realizing that I have a right to paint and create too. And if nobody wants it, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't please others, it does not matter. It's all about how it makes you feel. And I think that I can recognize certain pieces like that after I've gotten about 75% of the way done. And when I'm 75% of the way done, that is when I really enjoy the process, because I can completely see everything. And when I'm doing like abstract art, it means it's starting to take shape and develop into something visible to me that I can show and share with everybody else. That's kind of the job of an artist, is to do that. So, okay, I've got my lucky 8-ball here. I stole this off my aunt at the convention. She said I could steal it. And he has not been very, very happy with me. He has been giving me like negative advice or negative answers. And so now that I have realized the comfort that comes from doing art for myself even, I'm going to ask him, is it my destiny to be an artist? See what he says. Hang on, I'm going to bring it all the way to the light. What does that say? I don't know. Can you read that? Doesn't help that I... with certainty. Ah, cool. Hey, it's about time you started talking to me better. I finally got a responsive 8-ball. Before it kept saying, I don't know, you'll have to see, it is unknown. And it's like, oh my God, come on, give me a little bit of hope, you know what I mean? So I think that's pretty much it. I didn't want to like over talk you guys, but I would really like to try out a feature that I've never gotten to do before. And that is, I'm wondering if there is any of you guys that would like to come on as a guest. I have never done that before, but I can see where I can invite that person. So if you're interested in that, like, okay, let's see if I can invite Steve. I'm going to invite you. I'm going to invite you, Steve. There we go. Okay, I sent the invitation. So we'll see if Steve comes by. And then let's see. Or Sadie even. Okay, I sent invites to Sadie now. All right, so I think that once we get up here, one more person. Okay, Chris Lynn. Oh, I just love her voice. She's got the coolest accent. All right, so now we're going to see what comes of that. I'm going to see how. Let me see here. Swipe to close. Okay. Once it oh, I've got a message here. Let's see. Okay. Oh, okay. Steve joined. Hey, Steve, I can't hear you. There we are. Steve. Okay. I don't know if anyone else can hear him, but I can't. And if I can't hear him, it's kind of like, it looks like your mute is on up there. Let me see. No, I'm not muting you. You muted yourself, I think. Okay, well, maybe somehow someone else will come on. But I am really anxious to be able to get to the point where I can learn some of the bells and whistles on this app. Because the more I learn, the more I get to play. And the more I play, the more I can create. I've noticed there's a lot of artists on TikTok, a lot of us. And there's even some on there that literally do art and people bid on it actively. It's like really bizarre, and it's like spin art. Or graffiti art, stuff like that, which is honestly pretty cool. And if they're good at it, then, you know, that's a bonus. But so I'm really wanting to figure out all this like different e-commerce stuff that's going on with it. And I'm hoping at some point to be able to offer some really cool exclusive things, you know, like, hey, I've got a really great deal on, you know, this tripod that follows you as you're talking, and it's like high definition and all this stuff, and it's under $20, you know, that kind of stuff would be really cool to be able to do, to be able to have on there even. I'm going to try pushing that again. Okay, because it keeps telling me that Steve Dodge wants to join as a guest and that he's on here, but I can't hear him, and I'm not sure why that is. So it's probably me like not knowing how to do something in particular. I'm going to see here if... No, I do not have it muted. Okay, everything's on there. Everything's fine. He should be able to come on. I don't know why he's not coming on. Let me see here. Oh, friends, I can actually go live with guests. There we go. Let me try it this way. Okay. Let me see here. But I could also do side hustle. I could do some witch. I could do key risks if he would want to do it. I don't know. Or maybe even Sadie. No, I already invited you, Sadie. You don't have to come on. But I'm really anxious to try to get this thing figured out, to be able to have people on here. And that way I don't feel like I'm like the only person talking and it's only like one way. Because sometimes it can feel kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, a little more self-conscious. You're sitting there talking about yourself and your stuff, you know. And so that's kind of part of this. So I am not able to figure this out I waved. I figured that. I'm going to research this. I promise you guys. And I am going to get it so that I can have you guys on here because I would love to have you guys join the chat. And I just think that that would be honestly really wonderful thing to do. So I will be back on here again soon. I promise you that. I am going to see where the night takes me. I am hoping that maybe I can begin something new, possibly an abstract, possibly a new sculpt. I'm not sure yet, but once I latch onto it, I may show it to you guys if you want to see it. I really have no other way to be able to know. I mean, I can't even figure out how to get the chat up on this. I think I'm going to need to like get my Apple computer out and set it up like a little workstation along with the camera on this. So everybody that came on, thank you so much. And I hope that you'll come back. I am trying to push for 9 o'clock as being my typical start time because it seems to work out for my friends on both coasts. So I look forward to seeing you all soon, possibly tomorrow, 9 o'clock.